the complaint asserts that while the substitution was properly done by the local ward committee, that there was no statutory underpinning and therefore no statutory right to have Mr. DeLuis' name appear on the printed ballot, which was done by the Secretary of State.
That equity should favor the vigilant, not the negligent. Here, by waiting until after the election has occurred, after the votes have been counted and recounted, and after Ms. Miller has lost, it would be inequitable to wit disenfranchising the majority of the voters in Ward 5 of the city of Warwick to grant the relief sought. That inequity would result from Ms. Miller's sought relief of redoing an election with the wrong name or no name on the ballot has to be barred under the doctrine of latches.
The thing I can say about the timeliness is that I believe that my client and the Republican Party chair in Warwick made a very diligent effort to get to the truth of the status of this of Mr. DeLuis, and it really was not possible for them to do it much sooner than they did. That's clear and unambiguous. The only way that someone can be placed on the ballot is if his predecessor as a candidate dies. Why was he on the ballot? There is no basis whatsoever as to why he was on the ballot.
We have a motion to dismiss and a second. Any further discussion from the board? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
No. The ayes have it.
Yes, the case was dismissed due to lack of timeliness, yet I attested to the fact that I had come to the Board of Elections, to the Secretary of State, contacted them on multiple occasions, asking how do I make a timely complaint in order to review the law that I think had not been followed. So today it was just business as usual. We're gonna throw it out. It can't be heard because she didn't make a timely injunction or complaint to the board. And so while I've seen them push the timeliness aside on other issues so that they could hear them, but they didn't do it in today's case, which was very important because it wasn't just the timeliness of filing a complaint, it was had the Board of Elections, had the Secretary of State actually followed a law, and we don't think they did.
Today, the Board of Elections had an opportunity to allow people who have worked very hard to cut through the bureaucracy after an election that they lost by 53 votes, can still have their day in front of the Board of Elections. And unfortunately, the Board of Elections doesn't think that it's important that you diligently pursue, even within the Secretary of State's office or the Board of Elections staff. They still seem to think that that means that your case has to be dismissed when you finally get to the Board of Elections. And that is a very unfortunate result.
And I find it very disheartening that a candidate such as Joanne Miller, and I don't know Joanne Miller at all, I don't know her situation at all except what I witnessed at the Board of Elections meeting in the beginning where she had filed a complaint. What I see is that she made several attempts to go back and forth from the BOE to the Secretary of State's office to her own town Board of Canvassers, and she got nowhere with this complaint regarding this opponent, okay? Something having to do with how he was put in the place of an original candidate. So I just find it very disheartening that the whole timely issue, it was dismissed because it wasn't timely. She didn't file in time or in a timely fashion. But it was very disheartening to hear that she was calling and calling and calling. No one calls her back. She gets no answer. Well, then of course she can't file anything. And she's not a lawyer. She doesn't know what all of her options are. And the Board of Elections has a responsibility to inform voters and answer their questions. So I found that difficult to hear.
The ruling itself was a little uncomfortable because there were so many loopholes, and it just seemed like the Board of Elections, the Secretary of State's office, our local Board of Canvassers really have let down the constituents and people running for office. The candidates didn't get the directions that they needed, and it's heartbreaking to see a candidate work so hard and not get the support of the offices that are supposed to be helping. Granted that the GOP could not get involved because it was an independent candidate up until the end when the candidate reached out to their local GOP and was provided with the help and assistance, phone calls. But one thing I did learn from running for office a few times is that definitely email everybody instead of calling, because you need to have those records, and those records are very important when it comes to a hearing or a meeting, when it comes to your candidacy and validating or verifying the contested votes. So my advice to any new candidate is to learn the rules of election integrity, reach out to your local offices and officers, get to know who these people are, so that way you can be on a personal basis with them and be able to feel comfortable sending an email.
People take note. Sometimes when a state has been run by the same party for 90 years, it has consequences. Thank you. Fortunate result.
I find it very disheartening.
Had the Board of Elections, had the Secretary of State actually followed a law, and we don't think they did.